But just a weird random side note. Sorry, guys. Thanks again for watching. Anybody who's watching. We were just talking today about the CGI. We were we're lucky at our regular day job. We got to they were playing all the films, and one thing that I always notice and point out, so many people complain about the CGI from the prequels. But it's like, if you look at the original, and I'm an original trilogy fanatic, I'm nuts for the original trilogy, of course. But if you look at you watch the scenery, a lot of that are just backdrop paintings. So it's just like, it's interesting to me to find out. I would love to talk to people and kind of see, is it not obvious? Is it not as obvious with these because to me it really is. Like, you can really tell that they have there's like, you see the scenes with the Ewoks in the trees. There is a backdrop. You can totally see it. And every time you see them in a hangar with the Falcon there, it's a backdrop. It's a painting. It's a painting of the Falcon, and you can totally see that. So, I don't know.
Let me make a comment on this one, because I watched the Google Doodle today. Was George Hayes? I don't even know how to pronounce his French name, but the director, the French illusionist, who created A Trip to the Moon. That 1903 movie.
Yes.
That was a silent movie.
The one that the
amazing.
Scorsese film's based on.
I love it.
That thing is like backdrops. I sat and watched it. It's like 13 minutes long, but it is amazing in the sense of just
I love it.
The backdrops, but it's the way in which he uses live actors with those backdrops and things. And that was kind of the effective thing in Star Wars too. It was like, you see that scene in Empire where Han and Lando are having a moment. And Lando's like, get out of here, you scoundrel. Or no, that was Return.
You pirate.
You pirate. And you see like Lando walking into the shadows, and you realize it's a big old backdrop of the Millennium Falcon. It's not actually a studio set and stuff, but it's just the way that it works with the camera. What happens in the prequels is it's so much CGI that it doesn't have that same kind of magical interaction at times. At times it's pretty freaking cool, and it's like, holy shit, there's so much going on.
Well, I go back and forth because I love that the first trilogy that world looks more lived in. It looks more real. But the one thing I have to say about the prequels and the kind of shiny digital effect is that during the Old Republic, when there was peace in the galaxy, it was a different world, and it was a lot more glossier. You know what I mean? It's kind of like almost like, what people reflect to
before the Empire.
Yeah, exactly.
Before the dark.
Before things got dirty and industrious.
Before the dark times, before Rian Johnson.
Now, outside of the story aspect, the prequels for me were what affected me a lot, like emotionally or whatever. Because I was like, that was old enough, I was like, I kind of knew what was going on. Like, the Phantom Menace was the first. So, what was your guys' reactions when you first saw the Phantom Menace? Like, what was yours? When you first saw it.
Yeah, I'm dying to know, Jeremy. I'm dying
like,
to
now
know
it's like, because for me, when I saw it, I was like, oh, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Darth Maul, them fighting at the end. It was so intense. Like, Jar Jar Binks, when I was younger, it didn't really phase me. When I started getting older, I realized, dude, you're so annoying.
Okay, but let me ask you this. How old were you?
So he was born in 91.
91.
So
what? They came out in 99?
8
years
old.
Yeah. So Jar Jar wasn't that annoying. Like, but Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, like the fighting at the end, I was just like so mesmerized. You're taking a lot. It's like
there's a lot
the
of
Jedi.
good things about the Phantom Menace, but I walked out skeptical because, first of all, you got to realize I've been waiting since 1983 for all of this. In fact, if I'm going to bring up any kind of ill will towards anybody, it's George Lucas himself. Why did you make us wait since 1983 for our prequels and our second trilogy?
This is why I have an answer for you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
It's because of the technology, man. He's waiting for technology to get better and cheaper. But
let me interject real quick, man, because I agree with that. But at the same time, it's like he waited for the technology to even write the scripts. Yeah. And you're like, dude, you don't need technology to write the scripts. Okay?
I mean, and that's when I'm...
Change them when the technology gets there, but at least
have you seen the documentary? Have you seen the documentary about the prequels? You watch George Lucas walk into a shed, okay, and sit down with a pad of paper this big and go, boom, I'm going to write this thing. And he wrote the thing by hand. I mean, I know what you mean. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. All of you people...
The
It's
fact
just-
that there was a camera there,
Well, the
and
fact
he was
that-
like, "Oh, here I'm going to write it now on
Well,
camera
in
for
this
this
book-
documentary."
Come on.
In this book,
Okay, but there's some serious deep quality to everything that was written, even in the action. We went over this, but
No, I agree.
yeah. Anyway,
But
whatever.
the difference is, in this book, he states that he sought help with dialogue. He sought help with dialogue, and that's what he, to me, that's what he needed to do with the prequels. It's just, it didn't flow. There was no, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Anyway.
hate the prequels, though. I'm not, and to tell you the truth, all I wanted since 1983 was to see the battle between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, and I got it, and that was phenomenal. So I'm not.
Did it
gonna
live
go
up to
back
the
and-
hype?
I'm not going to go back and say, I mean, come on, we all know Jar Jar Binks is like throwing Roger Rabbit in the middle of our Star Wars flick. It pissed everybody off, but
Yeah, the take on the prequels. So
Yeah,
we
right.
heard about the first one. What about Revenge of the Sith? Did the last battle live up to your hype?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
For you?
Yes, that's basically all I wanted to see, and I was glad that I got that. out
The rest of the
whole
movie you kind of didn't care about? You were
No,
just
no,
like,
I like the build up, and I thought it was a great. It's my favorite of the prequels, of course. But
Of course. You just said you
Ah.
liked Attack of the Clones.
I do like Attack of the Clones, and besides starting Anakin way too young in Phantom Menace and Jar Jar Binks, that Phantom Menace was a great film as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
it's
that
just
and the explanation of the Force, but we won't get into that. That's a long battle that, even though it's May the 4th, we still don't have enough time for that.
when it comes down to it, I think we all miss you, George Lucas. That's all I can say right now. Like, I just have to think about that. Sorry. I miss George Lucas Star Wars. That's all I can
But going back, and you said it yourself, he was waiting around for technology to catch up, and that's great and all, but that's the thing that makes the beauty of Star Wars was he didn't have a plan. I mean, in the making of Star Wars, halfway through filming the scenes in Tunisia, he decides to kill Obi-Wan Kenobi. One of the major plot lines in the film. It's kind of like he was going as you go. That's what made the beauty of Star Wars. Is
Okay,
that
yeah.
it wasn't all
Well, it's-
pre-thought out. It was feeling it out and saying, okay, and coming up with ways to do special effects like they did.
And maybe he was kind of thinking that going into the prequels.
I mean,
but
that's
this
the
time,
charm.
But this time it was like, instead of having the difficulties of the animation and the characters and stuff like that, it was like, oh, we'll just get that in post.
Right.
we'll just put some CG around that and it'll be good, and then we'll figure out the idea later, kind of thing. Because it was much more of a struggle. going on with those
it's like jazz improvisation, and the beauty of that in the sense that, I mean, and JJ Abrams. Sorry, I know that a lot of people are sour on him right now, but he was always like, he's talked to a lot of people about it, and you hear him in interviews. He talks about just about what he thinks about like going into a film. He's like, I'm not going to be married to everything right away. I'm going to have my basic outline. I'm going to have this. I'm going to have this, and this, and we're going to shoot this. But if I have like an idea in the middle of shooting and I have $20,000 or $200,000 or whatever to spend, I'm going to shoot that scene because he feels like that's something that will, work. And so I don't know, for whatever that's worth.
That in and of itself, fly by the seat of your pants was Star Wars. Getting it made. I mean, Lucas had a breakdown. It really drove him to sickness trying to get this film done. But the way everything fell together, and like I was talking about earlier, like John Williams didn't even start working on the soundtrack until January of 1977, and it comes out in May.
You know what I want?
Falling into place of all these things is what, to me, was the excitement of Star Wars. And, of course, Empire Strikes Back and everything turns on its head when you find out. There was so much contemplation after Empire came out, was like, is he really? Or is Anakin really Boba Fett?
We really
and he's
should...
just a clone. Vader's just a clone. There was all this speculation of if Vader was still really, that's the plot twist that I loved about Star Wars, is kind of like, and the prequels, I think he could have worked better to do some kind of like plot twist that you wouldn't have seen. It would have been hard because it's the origin of how Vader came to be, but it would have been cool if and not that he didn't. I'm not saying that any of the stories were bland, that he didn't have anything, but if there would have been a few more things in there that would have made plot twists unexpected.